Hello, everybody. Welcome to the IoT Show. I'm Sudha Jamthe. I'm so excited today, and I have a very special guest, Rudy De Waele. Am I pronouncing your name right? I did try that before our show.
That's very well pronounced, Sudha. Good morning for you.
Thank you. And you're joining us from London. No, you're in Spain today. You're based in London, but you're in Spain today, right?
Yes, I'm actually based in Cambridge, but I'm here in Spain now on a training for Socratic design.
So where in Spain? Are you in Barcelona? Are you in Madrid?
Which is the Empordà, which is above Barcelona, on the top right corner, between Barcelona and France, just below France. A very nice region where people live very well. We have lots of organic wine, organic olive oil, and very good food here, and good lifestyle.
So what is this place called? Sorry, I was in Barcelona last week. I love Barcelona.
So why didn't you tell me? We could have met up. We could have catched up.
So what is this place where you are, this awesome place you're describing? What's it called?
Which is actually the middle of Empordà, which is like after Girona, above Girona, Figueres, where the Dali Museum is. So it's in between Figueres and then.
Nice.
Very nice.
Yep. So your picture froze for a second, but I think we should be okay. So, Rudy, tell us a little bit about yourself. Other than where you live, I think you know more.
Well, I'm like 30 years in digital since the 80s, started early on the internet. And then since 99, started in mobile, did a lot of stuff for Nokia at the time in Finland, Helsinki. And worked a lot with mobile messaging, mobile innovation startups in early 2000. And then started blogging about a whole switch actually to the mobile apps, the open innovation type of activities. And the last 5 years, I went to Singularity University in 2011. And I actually focused more on actually analyzing and researching the impact of technology for business and on business and society. I consult mainly for corporations and also startups on how they can adapt to coming innovations and how they can create innovative strategies for that. So I also do a lot of events, on IoT. Recently, I did a lot of Mobile Monday at the time. I did a lot of events for them.
Yeah, the Momos.
Globally. So now I do an event in 2 weeks on IoT stars at the IoT Solutions Congress here in Barcelona. So I also organize quite some Socratic design workshops where we actually bring entrepreneurs and business leaders back to their core human values to build new narratives for the future. Yeah, instead of like just people coding and building solutions or trying to find solutions for problems, is actually we go back in a deeper exercise of like thinking really based on your values, and then we build examples for that. So that's
this is values of a corporation, or how do you do that when you bring people from a company together?
Yes, it can be personal values or also corporations. It works really well for corporations, for teams, for example, to bring teams together and actually to design strategies for the future, which will be based on values, because our companies and everybody actually will have to connect more and more to the human values as everything gets automized around us. I call that the algorithmification of life. Yeah, so literally everything becomes an algorithm. So, well, there's lots of great stuff happening with that. Yeah, so that we will not have to do things that we don't like to do anymore. But on the other hand, we're going to have more time to do other things. So we will need to start thinking of like what that society is going to look like, and how we're going to build that society. Yeah, with more time, and how we're going to function, how we're going to educate our children. In a more, as we see it, a more creative world, also teaching people how to become independent, how to set up their own businesses, how to create a lifestyle that is great. And for companies, it works well because companies will have to be connected to human values, connecting so they can connect to their consumers. We see now already examples of companies that don't of the consumers. They will lose their consumers, or consumers will stop buying products.
That is very fascinating, because there's a lot of talk about, there's so many opportunities with, bots and drones. Actually, we have a IoT Tech Expo coming up in California, where I live, in Santa Clara, in 2 weeks. And I'm speaking on this topic on business disruptions with robots, drones, and bots. And that's one of my favorite topics. And I go back to this place after giving all this awesome, cool ideas and companies what they're doing, to how does it change our interaction with our own world when it's full of devices, when it's run by devices. So I love your approach of going back to the values. You should talk about that. We'll come back, revisit that. If you can share specific example, I would love to hear that. But before we go ahead, I think you didn't tell us about your book. That Shift 2020 is your conference also, right? You host a conference by the name. You also have
Yeah, my company name is Shift 2020. You just go to shift2020.com. But it all started with this book 2 years ago, where I actually decided to interview 70 people that I admire in technology, or 70 of my gurus. Yeah, all people that I valorize a lot and I value a lot. Asked them about their vision for 2020. So of course now we are already a lot closer to that. Yep. But it's still worthwhile reading it. Sometimes I just open it up. It's here on my table, and I read some paragraphs, and I'm like, oh my God, this is really well said. So there's some really good guys in there, from Salim Ismail from Singularity University.
Yeah, I know Salim from his Yahoo days, Yahoo Labs.
Yeah, Nelly Cruz, who was ex-president of the European Commission, vice president, and all that. So yeah, there's lots of very good stuff in there. So I'm going to build on that. Well, actually, what happened is, after the book, lots of companies started calling me to give actually summaries of what is happening and how they can adapt their strategy towards 2020. And that's what I do now. So, and I hopefully will come out with another book which will talk more about the human aspect, I guess, of what we see with technology. Because I think that we live in a society where everything is just moving into technology, as we have many examples in health and business efficiency and stuff like that. But on the other hand, just seeing the surface of what's going to happen to 20 years, yeah, because we entirely going to live in a total different type of society. Yeah, so if you look now already, what is happening, what is happening society-wise globally, all over the world, it's just exploding. And why is that? Because we are so far away from our core values. In this leapfrog thing of just keeping innovating technology. And then, politicians become the pinballs of the corporations. There's no vision anymore. How do we create a society of there's actually no vision of what type of society do we want? It's great to have technology, but it's the effect of technology. Yeah, for businesses, we know it's just about more profit, more efficiency, and stuff like that. So, but it has it's going to have huge ethical challenges and also huge societal challenges. Yeah, so, and I think a lot has to do, it's not a problem for me. I don't see it as a problem, because I think technology is good, but we have to have a discussion, and we have to start thinking of actually how we're going to create that other world, or the different type of society that's going to result in that. And for that, I don't see enough vision, I don't see enough discussion, and that's what I want to stimulate a bit, and I also try to bring that in my presentations.
This is fascinating. Because incidentally, my most recent book from March, it's called IoT Disruptions 2020. And I talk about not about the world of 2020, but to get to the world of 2020, what are the things that people need to do, innovators need to do, whether you're an innovator of a startup or a corporate innovator, or what they call as an entrepreneur. If you're looking at what world would look like in 2020, there's so much noise and so much hype around too many technologies. So where could you pivot? So it focuses on IoT plus AI combination, on what you can do with machine learning or deep learning. and AR, VR type of things, but it's more focused on machine learning and combination with IoT more than AR, VR, and what you could do. But I love your point about it is not technology for the sake of technology. Technology will be dragging us and we would be running like slaves, or we would be having these negative conversations of machines, are they controlling us? So I can't wait for you to kind of develop this thing fully and do your next presentation or your book and come back to my show. So I would love it. Today, I wanted to talk about what you shared with me as combinatorial, right? Is that what you call it? Combination.
Yes.
Combinatorial.
Actually, a slide from Frank Diana, which is a fellow futurist. We have a club of futurists, which is called the Futures Agencies, which is led by Gerd Leonard. It's thefuturesagency.com. And well, we all have our special, field where we specialize in, and we often share opinion. So Frank Diana came up with this slide, which is called Combinatorial.
So let me pull up that slide. Keep talking. I will try and get that slide, do a slide share, and see if I can. Yes, I will try and get that slide up. I see it. Does everybody see it? Do you see it now?
Is it on? Is it on now?
I tried to put it up. Yes.
Oh yeah, I can see it. Yeah, very good.
So tell us what is combinatorial again. What does that concept mean? And then tell us all these lines and stuff, and then let's talk a little bit more on that.
So if you look at the slide, on the left, you will see all the technologies we know already that are now like built where we build everything else on, like internet, social, mobile, cloud, big data. Yeah. And then the green curve is the technologies that are now actually, some of them are still in the hype curve, like 3D printing, Internet of Things. They also have renewable energy, cognitive systems, nanotechnology, robotics, and blockchain. And then the other line forward on the right is the line of all the technologies that are coming.
So the smart. So are the technologies on the right side are just if this line continues on, that is where we would go. Like the blue line, if it continues on, would become the gray line, is where we would have gone, or that's the
gray line will become the blue line, actually. Yeah.
Okay. So the
extension, radical life extension may be a common thing in 20 years. Yeah.
Okay. So the human 2.0, maker economy, energy internet, healthy life extension, or like the autonomous vehicles, all of that is the future where we would go with all this. Okay, I get it.
You hear a lot of talk about that, and then there's a lot of things that are actually happening already or that are worked on, like smart cities, smart homes, connected care, sharing economy, but they're not really like mass scale yet. Yeah. So, but if you're what we mean with combinatorial is that actually the biggest opportunities lie in all the areas if you start to combine things in different sectors. For example, just take 3D printing, and then you can link that with logistics, internet, with autonomous vehicles, with sharing economy and Internet of Things. A lot of opportunity. If you take, for example, smart cities and autonomous vehicles in sharing economy, well, that's an obvious one. So that's going to keep cars out of the cities, which everybody wants. We want less cars in the cities. People don't want to spend time in their cars sitting in traffic jams anymore. And we have companies like Uber and Lyft to solve that problem. And there's other examples that I can mention. Let me think about one.
So there was something about parking, I think, in Frank's blog. One thing that's fascinating for me is when I talk to actually executives of companies on Internet of Things and on AI and how it would affect them. Usually, when I give them an example of something that's happening in one industry, they light up and say, "Oh, we could apply this in our industry." And it might be something like mining, and I might not be talking about mining, but they would come back and say, "Oh, healthcare is doing this, and does that mean we could use that?" So we have examples of people who are using AR in oil refineries, because they are using that for, blowing up machine parts in almost real, close to 3D, to quickly repair the things. And I see the connection of how, what is happening in one industry is applied to another. And I always talk about how it's all not in a linear silo. This actually takes it a whole new dimension. So you're saying a combination of multiple technology is going to create unique opportunities. So don't think about it as I'm switching to the cloud or I'm now adopting Internet of Things, but it could be a combination with something else. It's a start.
Yeah, well, I always advise every company to look at, you have to look at all the technology disruptions,
yes,
and technology innovations that are happening. And then you have to look at like how these technologies could affect your business. Let me give you just one more example, which everybody will understand. Amazon Fresh, for example.
Yeah.
Fresh has now a warehouse or delivery station within 20 miles of 44% of the US population. Yeah, so that's now, that's up from 38% in 2015 and 26% in 2014. Half that Amazon Fresh has now can deliver like within 20 miles.
Yeah.
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 Find that, yeah, because they have a user base already of Amazon's user base is 69 million. Yeah. If you combine that with autonomous car or autonomous delivery or drone delivery.
So the drones that they're talking about.
Yes. So, but if you would combine that, they can wipe out an entire segments of the retail industry, and that is what big or large corporations always fail to see. They fail to see how technology can be disruptive, so disruptive. And one of the problems I think is that we have the top 5 most valuable companies now in the world. From companies, like Amazon, Google, Facebook, Apple, and Microsoft. So, but if you apply that to, for example, pricing, yeah. So Amazon is going to push all the pricing of the products in the US, but they can also do that in Europe, undermining now in Europe, because that pricing is based on delivery people or persons that have also social security and stuff like that. So if that is going to be done by machines, this cost is going to be dramatically cheaper.
So
also, it's going to undermine also entire societal mechanisms and systems.
One thing I want to talk about the platform.
I would say.
So the platform topic that you are talking, I think we should discuss this in more detail. And again, like you said, it's very different for different regions, right? I see the Amazon Fresh truck all around us. It delivers from some stores like Sprout and a few others, not my usual stores. So I end up getting a quick delivery from Costco that Google gives for me. And talking about Amazon and all the things they are going to do for world domination was my favorite hobbies coming from eBay. And we had our own local service, which we did not continue. We stopped it at some point, and didn't take the risk of building that out. But what you're saying, that back to the combinatorial topic, is Amazon doing this delivery within 1 hour of demand tied to the drones is a whole new disruption. So if you're a retailer, you should not be thinking about just, hey, Amazon is delivering and they're managing their inventory better. But now when you add the drone thing to it, the drone innovation to it, it disrupts a whole bunch of things. So you can't say, hey, they can deliver only so much, they will still be stuck in traffic. Now they are going to create new air traffic with drones. Right? So that's the
I think the first thing, drone delivery is going to be a problematic thing. Yeah. So because it has to be hugely regulated, they have to create like highways in the air just for the drone. So I think that's going to take time. But I think the disruption is going to come faster from the self-driving or autonomous cars, because that's going to change. For example, the retailers that are just having products in a big retail store, they are doomed, I think. Yeah, because Amazon is going to take that, because there's, you know, if the price is the same or just a little bit more to get everything at home, why would you spend that time in the warehouse? So buyers or consumers that want to go and buy things will go more after experiences. Yeah, so people who create different experience or unique experience, those will be the ones that will stay. But like the big, large retailers and all that, they're going to have huge competition from Amazon, or they're going to have consolidation in the market or whatever. But that market is going to change for sure.
So it's not just the retail. Like Uber has this thing called Uber Eats, where you can actually pick up a list of restaurants and say what food you want specifically from there, and it is delivered by an Uber driver. So Uber has taken what they did with the driving and expanded to, you know, disrupt the whole restaurant industry. And now it's so much easy for me to just pick up one particular kind of food from one place and another from another place. It's like shelving different products together that the Walmart did, right? But it delivers everything using the same Uber driver infrastructure. And now they're testing out their self-driving car in Pittsburgh, and they could switch. So suddenly self-driving car could just deliver the food for me. And this goes back to the new world of machines, of, you know, that you were talking about.
Yeah, exactly. So, but then again, you know, it will depend on like who do you deliver, right? So if you have like unique, you can make a fascinating Indian curry that is not anywhere else, it's going to be good for your business. But
I am not a cook. I have no identity tied to cooking. I love eating. So you should.
If you just make pizzas, or, you know, like there's this, I think there's this startup, I forgot the name, this the startup that actually makes pizzas, the robot that makes pizzas.
That's right, the robot delivery pizzas. I want to try that just for the robots.
Exactly. But their concept, yeah, now they still do the pizza in the warehouse, but then their concept is actually to just in the delivery truck. Right, so they will have the ovens and everything, all the ingredients in the truck, and they'll have the robot just making the pizza and deliver.
The robots are the cooks. The cooks make.
Right, exactly. So I would say for the average food and things that are very like fast food and stuff like that, that's the way it's going to happen. But if you have specialized food, well, it's going to be good for your business, because then you can reach more customers, right? But also, I would say people will also go out to a nice restaurant because to have experience, because we can't spend our lives in front of the TV 24/7 and just have everything delivered at our homes. What's going to become us?
We could have an augmented reality experience, like with the recent Oculus demo shown at Oculus World, right? The one that Zuckerberg did. We could actually have two people with our Oculus VR units and experience sitting in the restaurant. You eat, you know, I'm just like playing devil's advocate for a crazy environment. I'm not sure I'm ready for that world. But you and I could be in two different parts of the world wearing our Oculus, and I could get my Uber Eats deliver, and you could, you know, make your food or get it delivered, whatever. And then we could experience sharing that as if we are in the same restaurant. How crazy is that? Yeah, no,
I think it's fascinating, and this whole virtual reality, of course, will have lots of great applications, let's say. But it's a reminder of like always you have to ask yourself, what type of society are we creating on the bigger picture? Because people cannot, you know, I know coders, they're designing like super babes in virtual reality, so they can actually you know, do things with that person or with that image in virtual reality, while they cannot talk to the person next to them. Yeah. So and lots of people lose a lot of empathy through technology by just being all the time in technology and then just not have any human vibes anymore, yeah, or not the touch anymore of human vibes. So, and if we lose that, we will also lose touch with humanity. So that's a bit our point with Socratic design, that we have to actually, yeah.
That's the one you do the value-based design for the companies, right? So I think.
And actually the result is that, you know, like before you develop something, make sure that you think about, you know, what is the effect, not just the micro aspect, but also like, you know, the effect on a larger scale. Yeah, so, and do you develop technology for good that's going to help people, or are you creating something that is just turning us into mushrooms, you know, so, or pumpkins? So
I want to go back to the topic of the platformization. You said there are the top 5 companies control most of the platforms. Tell us a little bit about that, and what is the implication of that? Where is that leading us, the world of technology, towards?
yeah, well, we all know that, you know, the power of the platforms, you know, if you ecosystem together, or ecosystem of supply and demand together on a platform, whatever the sector, you're in a good spot, right? So, and then you can accelerate and create a global business with a great community around it, which is great. But one of the problems that we see, maybe this is because we're in Europe, is that all the data, or the most powerful companies, of the over-the-top companies, as we call them, which is a telco term, you know, the telco, you have been in mobile, right? OTT, over-the-top companies, yeah, which all like Google and Facebook. I remember 10, 15 years ago, they were just starting to, you know, making deals with the telcos, like, oh, Google search this and that. And then, but they were not paying for anything, and they got everything for free, yeah? So that's okay, that's like now a long time ago. But now, there are the most powerful companies in the world, yeah?
So you're talking what we call as the 4 horses, the 4 horsemen, right? So you're basically about
exactly,
Google,
yeah,
Google,
Apple,
Facebook, Amazon.
Yeah, now we have the second layer. It doesn't stop there, because now the other layer of like the new unicorns are coming in, the Ubers, the Airbnbs, and all that, and it's all data. Give you an example. For example, cities. The city of Amsterdam is selling its data to Google. The traffic data is used by Google to be more efficient, yeah, for the drivers and things like that.
What do you mean by selling their data? They're selling traffic data, consolidated traffic data?
Yes, yes. So they share, I'm not sure if they sell it, but they share it with Google, yeah, because they, to actually look at the flaws in traffic systems in Amsterdam, and also to create better, better mobility in Amsterdam. Which original thought is great, but what is happening is that, like, actually everything we do, for the data will go to Silicon Valley.
That's right. Yep.
The data will go to Silicon Valley. And then coming back to my example of Amazon, so the pricing of products will be defined by Amazon, because there will be no competition anymore.
So they're two different things, right? One is that the platform, the technology platform on which everything else is deployed, is controlled by the top 4 or 5, 6 companies, right? And
yes, in
I think they're
competing
with each other. In all fairness, they're competing with each other to innovate so that they could be on top of the game. So they're not saying, okay, I'm 20 years old, I'm 15 years old, and I just am this big company. They're trying to behave like they are startup inside the big companies. And they're trying to innovate. So for the machine learning as the next platform layer, they're all competing. IBM is also in the game. And they're trying to see who will be the next machine learning platform on which everybody else will build all these cool AI solutions. So the game is not over. I would say the game is not over. Yes, they have an advantage because they have scale already, but they're innovating as much as anybody else. But to your point about the data and being able to control the pricing with their size today, I think it's a very legitimate point already with what they have.
No, but on the competitiveness, yeah, so that's the whole problem with, like, just keep doing business for competition and keep trying to innovate. So yep. Because now with the race for AI, we see, like, okay, if US companies don't do it, well, Chinese companies will do. And like this, we're in a race globally. And we keep going in the same thing. But what we are doing is that, at least from a European perspective, we are undermining our social structure. We are hollowing out the middle class, yeah? And that money is just going to some companies. You know, companies before, they used to always give back to the community, you know, to create social layers of structure of like still somebody needs to pay to build the roads, somebody needs to pay to build the schools, etc., etc.
The taxes.
That is something that needs discussion, because in Europe, the problem I see is that I don't see, if you just ask the competition, okay, we're in a new type of American data imperialism. And say, okay, we have to compete.
That sounds
okay,
so
great.
scary. That sounds so scary. So,
this is what's happening.
So
it is happening.
Data imperialism. Okay.
Yes, of course, American data imperialism. And we can try to compete, but this is not going to change quickly or overnight, because Google is basically literally basic. They have been deploying their technology for 20 years. Facebook is here 10 years now. So this doesn't happen overnight, of course, but something needs to be done of like that problem. And I don't have a problem with competition and innovation. I think that's okay. But we need also, that's what I say, that companies will have to values that will reflect society. Leaders of tomorrow will have to have values that they also do good for society. Because the politicians are basically pinballs of the companies. They don't have any power anymore. There's no vision. Kennedy would say, oh, in 10 years, we're going to go to the moon. Nobody's talking about 10 years. There's 4 years, because that's their term that they can do actions.
I think Elon Musk is talking about going to Mars.
Right.
I mean, it's again a company, right? Tesla making taking over the car industry and innovating. And
those are individuals, exactly, but those are individuals and companies. Those are not governments anymore. Yeah. The ultimate thing is like, oh, if planet Earth is destroyed, let's all go to Mars, right? Great.
Okay, so we went away from this combinatorial to a very scary world. So is your solution to this? I mean, every time I travel around, I go to Izmir and they do this hackathon, or I go to Barcelona and I meet with Barcelona Technology School to this aspiring class of students who are going to be future digital leaders. I feel optimism. I don't feel that innovation is pocketed within Silicon Valley, though I come from Silicon Valley. Yes, they have the advantage. I am not a believer that anybody, because they've been around for 10 years, 5 years, or whatever number of years, yes, they have channels, they have advantage, but that doesn't stop. Like Uber didn't exist and it came out of nowhere, right? So I'm just thinking, when I see the energy of, the hackathons, wherever I see developers innovating, I'm a big believer of tech. So your point about, thinking about values and doing this right fascinates me. I think it's awesome. But in terms of the actual innovation, I think game is not over. We live in very amazing times, and, next big thing could come from somewhere. The only thing is, many of the new startups who are building out, they all seem to want to go, right? I mean, Israel built out of nothing into another mini Silicon Valley-like thriving ecosystem within Israel. But what I'm seeing is the new startups, as they're building out, it's not just the innovation and creating the startup, but they need to want to build out a fundamental business that stays in their region and creates regional economic development. What I see missing is people are building out the next great startup, and then they want to go sell it to Google or Apple or Amazon or Facebook. So that's where I think that mindset needs to change, that, hey, we're building something awesome. Can we now build it out into a fundamental business? And I don't know what is the solution, who could motivate them, or what could incentivize them to go the whole...
Yeah, exactly, but that's because we live in the wrong narrative. Yeah, the wrong narrative is that everything is about money. Capitalism is about money. And okay, capitalism does a lot of great things, I'm not against capitalism, but I think we are reaching an inflection point because what is happening is that technology accelerates everything, and we are just now seeing the surface. So that's why I look into the future, and I think one of the biggest disruptions, what's the biggest disruption of technology innovation is? It's the mental health of the people. Collapsing. Yeah. Do you know that in the UK, 50% of the people want to change their job? Yeah, they're totally unhappy in their job. Yeah, so that's why also startup culture is a better culture, because startup culture, good with startup culture. I agree with you. Don't get me wrong. What I just want to do here is that we need to stop reflecting more and reflecting better. Yeah, because startups different DNA. When I talk to corporations, they say, "But how can that we cannot compete with startups?" Yeah, because startups have a different DNA. They are closer to their values. They're more passionate, and they like to use technology for good. Yeah, a good example is the startup from Amsterdam, the Things Network. You know about?
Yes.
Yeah, who actually build these networks connecting cities with LoRaWAN technology and Bluetooth technology, which they connected Amsterdam with 10 connection points in 4 weeks' time. The telcos, I think in 1 year time, they connected 40 cities. Yeah. So, and the telcos are spending millions on the same technology and nobody talks about it. And why is that? Well, because the startup is creating an engaging community globally of people who want to use that network and build on top of that. While in the telcos, the people are just doing their jobs. And that's the difference. Yeah, so you cannot compete with that. So, and I think the end of the large corporations also, you know, startup culture will keep flourishing and will actually tackle lots of problems. Also in society, we see that already in the city of Amsterdam. There's examples already of people actually in communities using technology to solve local problems. Yep. So actually taking away the power of the politicians, because the politicians need to do their job. So I think we will also see that there will be more and more innovation on that side, on societal front. Yeah. So in the end, everything will solve itself, I think, but we have to be aware of like the outcomes. Yeah. So I'm a positive guy, but you know, I think we are that you know, if you just look at the numbers of economies and all that, the middle class is losing out the last 20-30 years. So, and okay, we can say technology creates jobs, but it's also disrupting a lot more jobs. And to me, that is not the problem, but what is lacking is that we need to create or learn people that lose a job.
So we are reaching the tail end of our segment today. So we are
keep talking.
No, we are actually towards that. We are actually like no, close to 9:40. So it's like 4:40 for you. So we are closer to the end of our time. It's fascinating discussion. I had done this IoT show from various different countries for the IoT Day in April. And it just brings back thoughts of the one I saw from Slovenia or some from Germany. And regionally, when innovation happens, it has a different flavor. So to your point that when entrepreneurs innovate, if they're thinking about building up their regional economy, if they're motivated, either in value-based or even incentivized, right? If that's their motivation. I'm just thinking BMW has created a whole ecosystem of IoT startups all around it. And they're all, feeding into the BMW innovation pool. And that's fascinating, right? They're still staying there because that keeps them floating and growing. But BMW has done that. They're not doing that as an internal company that they're just innovating. They must be doing that too. So there are different models that is being tested out, tried in different parts of the world. So I'm thinking, as I'm hearing you, yes, it's legitimate. So one, we covered the whole combination of different technologies that leads to more innovation. Lot of different platforms, but all the top platforms are in Silicon Valley with the technology companies. And to your point of how we should do value-based planning instead of just focused on the growth as dollars only. So those are very legitimate, awesome points that we touched upon today. I'm thinking for the next session, maybe I'll bring somebody from Germany to see how they're doing this to keep the economy innovating and floating, but within the region, and see if we can continue this conversation. So do you have any last minute thoughts to wrap before we wrap up the session today?
In Germany, they have the Industrial 4.0, which is actually a point because Angela Merkel is an engineer, right? So if you look at politicians that are actually engineers, you see that also in China, who have a vision. Yeah, they are the ones who write out a plan. So Angela Merkel started with this whole Industrial 4.0, which was actually a vision from the government and the business world to actually use IoT business and to create prosperity. That's a very good vision. Yeah. So because Germany is also probably most prudent company on ethics and digital ethics. So they are also very aware of like privacy or safeguarding privacy for the users and citizens and things like that. And I think for smart cities also, if you look at the smart cities in Europe, the smartest cities like in Scandinavia or Barcelona, for example, they are building plans where they actually use also the input from the citizens. Yeah, and I think what is really important to build future projects, especially in IoT and smart cities, is that you know, city governments, they buy the intelligence of the whole ecosystem. Yeah, the private sector, academic sector, citizens, and city government. Yeah, put the whole ecosystem together and collective and intelligence. Cities of the future, yeah, but the city that we all want, yeah. So and then a system for democracy, right? But it's not happened that very often yet. So we need to keep.
Yes, sounds good. So that's all the time we have. Thank you so much, Rudy. It's fascinating. We always start up with one topic and then we go into all these other things that is important for things to take off for us to have a good life 2020. So I look forward to checking out your Shift 2020 book and see what you're going to come up with next. Thank you so much. And bye, everybody. See you next time.